Floods in Italy, as well as flash flooding that hit parts of the U.S. last night. And could flooding impact drinking water in Utah?
Normally there are paddles under there that are kind of churning things. We can't see them. It's so dirty.
Summer outlook. New details on how high temperatures could climb.
Temperatures are likely to be above average.
Wildfire season. How firefighters out west are getting ready.
Likely to get worse and worse as we see those hotter temperatures.
Grasshopper invasion. The major role weather is playing in their return to Las Vegas.
The wet winter has produced a lot of food for them.
And a closer look at the role weather could play in some of this weekend's biggest events.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
National Weather Desk, I'm Angela Brown. Heavy rain led to flash flooding in northern Texas last night. Dozens of cars were stranded in high water in Amarillo. About 1.5 inches of rain fell in 2 hours, more than the drains could actually handle. Many cars that tried to drive through the water stalled and had to be towed. We saw at least one man carrying a woman on his back right there through the water to dry land. Thankfully, there were no reports of any injuries. The death toll now stands at 14 following devastating flooding in northern Italy. Rescue crews are working to reach towns and villages still cut off after heavy and intense rain fell over a 36-hour period. The water sent mud through entire communities, flooding stores, homes, and basements. More than 10,000 people are out of their homes this morning. Some were rescued by helicopter, others rescued by boats. Losses are said to be in the billions of dollars. Northeast farmers are breathing a sigh of relief over some of their crops after frost and freeze Wednesday night. In upstate New York, there was a concern that the temperature plunge would damage local strawberries. They are usually ready to pick in early June. The good news? No major losses. Apple trees should be in good shape since the coldest air was closer to the ground level. The cold also cloaked Portland, Maine, which prompted meteorologist Charlie Lopresti right there to cloak his giant green squash plant with a Friends ice rink liner ahead of 27-degree temperatures. This year's flooding in Utah is raising concerns about the quality of drinking water. As water flows down the mountains, it's bringing plenty of mud and silt with it. But as Paul Nielsen reports, treatment plants are ready to deliver clean water.
The Big Cottonwood Water Treatment Center cleans about 25 million gallons of water per day. And while Big Cottonwood Creek is not at a flood stage now, it is expected to be next week. When it does, all that extra dirt and silt could be a problem.
When it gets to a certain amount, we have a hard time treating it, so that's always being monitored.
On bad days, the incoming untreated water could be around 600 times dirtier than the law would allow. Facility manager Russ Rank says the darkly orange and muddy looking water that we saw in one of their rooms is about 100 times dirtier than drinking water should be.
Normally there are paddles under there that are kind of churning things. We can't see them. It's so dirty outside.
We can't see them due to the turbidity. Yes, but they are turning. They're in 4 different sections. And we have added a chemical called ferric sulfate.
That chemical binds the dirt so it clumps and sinks to the bottom, making the water on top clear. So what happens when the water is too dirty to clean? They simply don't clean it. They shut the plant down and let all of the water make its way to the Great Salt Lake.
Through a series of pipes that are both surface and go underground and then reach out to the Jordan River.
Salt Lake City Water Quality and Treatment Administrator Teresa Gray says there have been times when the plant had to close because the floods sent too much dirt. When that happens, they get drinking water from another plant or from their wells. And while they aren't predicting the water to be too dirty to clean, they're getting ready for it.
We're preparing for that.
The outlook for summer is out, and NOAA says most of us can expect warmer than average temperatures. The exceptions are the plains, the Great Lakes, and the Midwest. Here's meteorologist Ryan Miranda with the summer outlook for the eastern U.S.
2023 is just flying on by. Summer is almost here, where the ice cream trucks are going to be out on the streets, the flowers will be looking beautiful, and the lifeguard stands will be full of lifeguards down at the beaches. This all begins in just 33 days, the official start to summer. But of course, when the ice cream trucks are going by, make sure you be careful so you don't get hit by one. And we are beginning to forecast for the summer season. The Climate Prediction Center has put here in the southeast temperatures likely to be above average through the entire summer season. Now, our average high here in Macon weaken during the summer in June, July, and August is around 91 degrees. And remember, this map is probability based. So the darker the shading, the higher the likeliness of temperatures being above average, not how far above average they'll be. And not every day will have temperatures above 91 degrees. Just the general trend throughout the summer looks to be trending warmer. And also in terms of rainfall, the Climate Prediction Center has put much of the eastern third of the U.S. likely to also be above average. This is most likely due to our El Nino that is developing, which usually puts above average rainfall here in the eastern U.S.
And as we start to see more of those summer-like temperatures in northern states, there is a temptation to jump into the water to cool off. As Seattle meteorologist Rebecca Stevenson explains, you could be exposing yourself to cold water shock.
After 4 days of record-shattering heat around 90 degrees, the waters of Puget Sound, Lake Washington, or Lake Tapps, and many local rivers are calling to cool down. Wait, all our local water temperatures are only 49 degrees to 54 degrees. The cold current of the Pacific Ocean and the snow melting from the mountains, streaming into rivers and lakes, maintains water that is very cold. When your body hits cold water shock can cause dismay. Changes occur in heart rate and blood pressure. A sudden gasp and rapid breathing create a greater risk of drowning, even for confident swimmers. Your body tries to hold your core heat by decreasing blood flow to your arms and legs. The result is a loss of movement. Unless a life jacket is being worn, the ability to stay afloat is next to impossible. That can make you dead in the water. That is cold water shock.
A California man is still in the hospital 3 weeks after a rattlesnake bit him. Briggs Santos says he was working in the mountains of Central California when the 6-foot snake just appeared out of nowhere.
I guess when I got into a little scuffle with this rattler, he ended up lucking out and getting me on a good hit in my index finger.
He said the bite required a lot of anti-venom, more than injuries, and now he's eager to go home. According to the U.S. Department of Ag, 2,000 people are bitten by venomous snakes in the U.S. every year, with 10 to 15 deaths. Grasshopper bites aren't poisonous, but swarms of them are very annoying, and they are once again invading southern Nevada, and their return can be blamed, you guessed it, on the weather. Ophelia Young is in Las Vegas, where she hopes this invasion isn't nearly as bad as 4 years ago.
This viewer sent me this video from a parking lot turned into a sea of grasshoppers. I asked the state entomologist today why they've come back. He said the wet winter has produced a lot of food for them, so they are alive, healthy, and strong in numbers, but they are still hungry.
The rangelands are drying up, and their food supply is diminishing, so they start moving. So they're just out moving along, trying to find more food.
Some of you may remember the 2019 invasion, where the flying insects plastered sidewalks and the walls of our casinos, and might be wondering, will this happen again? Jeff Knight says it depends on the weather. If the days get hot, they'll die off faster. But if it's too cold, they'll stick around and more may arrive. But if we get some normal weather, they should be out of here in 3 weeks.
Of hail last night in Alabama. Meteorologist James Spann in Birmingham posted this video on his Facebook page. It comes from East Alabama, not far from Talladega. You can see the hail was a pretty good size, coming down at a pretty good clip. And tomorrow there's a marginal risk of thunderstorms for most of that state. Now, James also posted this picture on his Instagram page. This is a cumulonimbus cloud hovering near Baton Rouge, Louisiana. This defense vertical cloud is the only type that is capable of producing hail, thunder, and lightning. It is also the only cloud that extends through all 3 cloud levels. And coming up in the National Weather Desk, a look at the connection between the temperature and how far your golf ball actually flies, plus how the weather could impact some big events this weekend, including tomorrow's Preakness in Baltimore.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Take a look and listen to the sight and sounds of strong storms moving through parts of North Palm Beach County Thursday. And at least one waterspout was produced Wednesday from unsettled skies around Mobile Bay. Waterspouts are formed over water. Some are produced by thunderstorms, and another type, formed in fair weather, is rarely detected by radar and quickly decays if it spins ashore.
For more content like this, like the National Weather Desk on Facebook.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti. A look at the Northeast. It's a nice looking Friday in the Northeast today. Temps are starting in the 40s. Afternoon highs will top out in the 60s and 70s. What you don't see in this map right here is a stiff southerly wind. The wind's going to gust 20 to 30 miles per hour. Now we have some rain moving in for part of the weekend. Most rainfall is going to be late Saturday and Saturday night. That's about 5 p.m. Notice some heavy bands moving through the Northeast Saturday night. That rain is going to be gone by Sunday. Look for a lot of sun with highs in the 70s.
I'm meteorologist Jonathan Myers, and here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. A cool start, but a little bit milder to finish on our Friday. Noontime, we're in the 60s to near 70 in Baltimore by about lunchtime. 72 at 2:30 at Richmond. And it looks like lots of 70s popping up on the map as we wrap up the day for the last day of the work week. Some showers, though, approaching with the next weather maker out toward Chicago, and some showers along the coast. Could be a little bit wetter into Saturday. That's the scene here.
I'm meteorologist Vitas Reed. Here's a look at your southeast forecast highs. We're looking at about 73 degrees in Raleigh, a little bit cooler there. We're looking at 85 in Jacksonville for your afternoon high. Nashville, 80 degrees, 81 in Tupelo, about 91 in Tampa, 89 West Palm, kind of hot down there in South Florida. Looking at a few spotty showers. That's why it's a little cooler up in North Carolina and South Carolina. That rain will continue to move out to the Outer Banks, but we'll start to get breaks in the clouds through Atlanta and down through parts of Florida. Afternoon showers or thunderstorms.
The National Weather Desk.
Practice makes perfect, and firefighters in Washington are putting that saying to good use, preparing for wildfire season, which involves maneuvers through dangerous conditions and making sure cross-agency coordination is seamless. Jackie Kent takes us through their training.
Washington's Public Lands Commissioner took a close-up look at these Fireboss single-engine air tankers ahead of Wednesday's drills to prepare for wildfire season.
I believe we are going to see a more significant fire season than we saw in 2022. It is only going to get likely to get worse and worse as we see those hotter temperatures, things drying out, people getting out on the landscape more.
Multiple aircraft took off from Bowers Field in Ellensburg to practice maneuvering through smoke in the distance.
Today's exercise is about practicing how do we deconflict airspace, how do we work with ground resources, calling in the right aviation assets.
Officials anticipate a late wildfire season, possibly into November.
Fuels will dry out, fires will become larger, and especially during any kind of wind-driven events. Now, we are looking at another late season, and we can thank El Nino for that.
Officials say although we're seeing an increasing number of wildfires statewide, we're also getting more resources to help contain them. DNR now has at least 30 air resources at any given time and tripled its number of wildland fire engines to 120. The goal is to keep at least 90% of fires under 10 acres. These drills work to help accomplish that through focusing on the initial attack and a coordinated effort between local, state, and federal agencies.
As summer and wildfire season quickly approach, reporters in Northern California checked in with fire officials to see what their early estimates are for this year's fire season. And there is some good news. A fire meteorologist says a mild start is expected thanks to the large snow pack. But Mason Carroll reports they're not completely out of the woods.
This year's fire season, especially the significant portion of the fire season for Northern California, will be a delayed season.
Brent Wachter is a predictive service fire meteorologist for the North State. He says there is a lot that goes into forecasting fire season.
We first start with what have you done for me lately in terms of precipitation, temperature, and how that impacts the fuels. And we look at the current state of fuel flammability.
Fuel flammability is low right now, thanks to late rains and a record Sierra snowpack, which is good for communities in higher elevations. But
it also is a double-edged sword because we do have a fair bit of that fine fuel or grass growth across the lower elevation.
And when you add those powerful winds the North State is known for, that can cause trouble.
Whenever we get the dry, windy conditions and we get the ignition under those conditions with all that grass fuel, that will certainly be problematic and that will keep the firefighters busy.
So for the public, he says pay attention to burn bans, clear your defensible space, and don't let your guard down.
The majority of the population lives in those areas where it's fine fuel dominated or all those grasses that'll be carrying out over the next several weeks. So don't let your guard down. Be very pay attention to the weather forecast, especially those dry, windy regimes.
Well, the sight of this big bug only means one thing: the return of the lake flies on Wisconsin's Lake Winnebago. But they're a little tardy this year. Eric Peterson has more about why they showed up late and how bad they are right now.
I would say they're about 3 times larger than a mosquito. Yeah, they're bigger, they don't bite, they're just kind of annoying.
Calumet County Parks Director Adam Backus says he first noticed the lake flies on Tuesday.
A couple days late. We always kind of say Mother's Day weekend, especially when we have campers calling. Yeah. But I expected it with the colder weather this spring that they'd show up a little late.
By Wednesday morning, temperatures were in the low 50s, and a cool easterly wind kept many parts of Calumet County Campground quiet. Neil Borkenhagen, his wife Barb, and their dog Sheba are on a short vacation.
They're not that bad, really. I mean, almost rather have them than the mosquitoes.
Inside the park headquarters, program assistant Sabrina Werner with the territory, and they're making the best of the situation.
We do get a lot of phone calls of people just checking in to see if they've arrived yet. At the office here, we actually give out free can koozies for the people that suffer through the lake flies with us.
Kidding aside, park leaders say the lake flies live about a week and are an important food source for many birds and fish, including sturgeon. Adam Backus says he expects the breeze will change and the flies will return.
And it could be the cold weather or they got pushed to the other side of the lake, and I'm sure they'll make their way back over.
The second round of the PGA Championship is underway outside of Rochester, New York. Yesterday's opening round was delayed by frost. Temperatures can play a big role in how far golf balls can travel. Meteorologist Violet Skybor explains.
Well, especially when they're driving the ball, the temperature can make a big difference in how far the ball travels, depending on if it's hot or cold outside. Let's take a look at a couple of examples. When it's cooler outside, colder air is denser, making it tougher for the ball to push air molecules out of its way, leading to a shorter shot. Then when it's hot outside, hot air is less dense, more spread out molecules, creating less drag on the ball, which leads to a longer shot. And by a noticeable distance, you gain about 1 yard for every 10 degrees warmer it is. Heading into Friday, a big warm-up, noticeable as we climb into the 80s in the afternoon. The ball will travel further by about 5 extra yards compared to Thursday morning. Plus, we're also looking at some rain and thunderstorm activity on Saturday. Lightning may cause delays, and heavy rain may cause pooling on the green. Reporting on the weather deck, I'm meteorologist Violet Skybor. Back to you.
And it's a busy weekend across the country with lots of events and festivals taking place as we count down to summer. We asked our team of meteorologists about what's happening in their communities and how the weather could impact it.
Hi there from Newport, Rhode Island at Fort Adams State Park. I'm meteorologist Christina Ernie, and I'm at the ocean race. Sailboats have been sailing around the world since last year, and they've made it here to Newport, but they leave for their next leg of this race this weekend, and they're headed to Denmark next. Great conditions this weekend. For the National Weather Desk, I'm meteorologist Christina Ernie.
The world-famous Blue Crab Festival comes to Little River, South Carolina this weekend. 300 vendors and delicious blue crabs. Saturday is the pick of the weekend. Partly to mostly sunny skies, temperatures climbing into the 70s. You'll need to be on the lookout for some scattered storms on Sunday morning. Better as we head through the afternoon with temperatures in the 70s.
Damascus, Virginia, the home of the world's largest celebration of the Appalachian Trail. Talking about trail days taking place this weekend, and weather for the most part is looking pretty good. We expect high temperatures mainly around 70 to 75. Dry weather expected Friday. Period of rain showers possible Saturday, and clearing and sunny on Sunday.
And we don't want to forget it's Preakness weekend. The second leg of the Triple Crown and horse rating post time is 7 o'clock tomorrow in Baltimore, and the weather could be a factor. There's a chance for a shower late afternoon or even early evening. Temperatures should be in the mid-70s. Kentucky Derby winner Mage is the current 8-5 favorite. It's the 148th running of the Preakness Stakes.
Well, good Friday morning, everyone. A cold front pushing through most of the region is going to bring some scattered rain showers from Chicago, South Bend, and eventually into Ohio, in the Ohio Valley by later tonight. On the back side of this, though, we've got some drier air, some sunshine. Looks like it's going to be a fabulous start to the weekend. Look at that. Des Moines 73, South Bend, Milwaukee into the mid-60s. Rain continues to push off to the East Coast and dry for the rest of the weekend.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. Here's a look at your regional weather. We're starting out into the 60s and some 70s down toward the south. A little rain up into Oklahoma. There's a low there and a cold front pushing south. That'll help fire up another round of rain from Oklahoma down into North Texas, while most of the rest of the region will stay dry and hot today. Temperatures will be climbing up near the 90-degree mark to the south and staying up into the 60s and 70s up to the north. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. That's a look at your regional weather.
Well, hi there, everybody, in TGIF, heading into late May with some beautiful weather through the West Coast cities. Still hot, though. Temps back into the upper 90s around Vegas. Some afternoon thunderstorms. The monsoons might cool you off eventually out of Phoenix with a high of 92. Our next weather maker, we do have some wet weather waiting out over the Pacific that eventually will throw increasing clouds into Seattle and Portland this weekend. Otherwise, more thunderstorms today near the Cascades and the Sierra. And that's the scene from here.
The National Weather Desk.
Well, it's time to keep the bug spray handy in some parts of the country. In Austin, now is prime time for mosquitoes, and those bugs are keeping local pest companies busy. One local mosquito control company responded to 160 treatments on Thursday alone. And get this, November is when mosquito season is projected to end in Central Texas. But no matter where you live, there are things you can do to prevent mosquito activity.
So the
biggest contributor to mosquitoes in people's yards is standing water. So there's a lot of things that people just don't think of that can hold water. Kids' toys just left out.
Other things you can do include wearing clothes with long-sleeved shirts, pants, and socks, and using repellent. But there is a silver lining. No reports of West Nile or mosquito-borne illnesses in the Austin area. But unfortunately for them, fire ants also become a bigger issue during the hotter months as well. And we'd love to share your weather content on the air with us. You can find us on all your social media platforms, your favorite ones, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Just search NAT and WX Weather Desk or the National Weather Desk. We'll be right back. And thank you so much for joining us. I'm Angela Brown. Make it a great weekend, and we'll see you right back here on Monday.